So we're waiting on Doug. We're good to go. All right. All right, everyone. Welcome again to the Town of Manlius board meeting by Zoom. And of course, Facebook is where you'll find us. And before we get started, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, which is the flag is behind me. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation
under indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Couldn't see it. The eagle wasn't facing the right way, so I just fixed it. All right. Before we get started, I'd like to have the board introduce themselves, and we'll go in alphabetical order. And also, Allison has sent out the attendees and introduction sheet. So I'll start out. Ed Theobald, Town of Manlius Supervisor.
Hello, Counselor Sarah Wall-Bollinger.
John Deere, Town Councilor.
Elaine Denton, Town Councilor.
Karen Green, Deputy Supervisor.
Caitlin Creaswell, Town Councilor.
Heather Waters, Town Councilor.
Welcome, Town Board, and also with us, the other town officials, and you can, of course, wave. Randy Capriati, Director of Code Enforcement. Police Chief Mike Crowell. Highway Superintendent Rod Cushing. Town Attorney Tim Ferteski. Town Engineer Doug Miller. There's Doug. And Town Manager Ann Oot. And Town Clerk Allison Weber, who is our Zoom queen. That's been her title now for quite a while, because she's done a lot of meetings for not just us, but other municipalities as well. So thank you, Allison, and keep up the good work. So moving forward, let's move on to approval of the minutes of May 27th.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 27th, 2020.
I will second, Sarah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and carried. I forgot my gavel, but no one noticed, so sorry I said anything. Next, we have item 4, which is, I'm sorry, item 3 was minutes, item 4 is the abstract.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 12 in the amount of $320,992.14.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried. Okay. Very good.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Who's that? Is that me?
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Okay, someone's trying to get in, I think. That's what's
You
up.
entered 45042. This
I'm
meeting
not
ID
sure where
does
that's
not
coming
exist.
from.
Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by
Looks
pound.
like it's Doug.
Where is it, John?
Is it Doug? I don't see. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's handled.
We're good to go?
What was it? That was so weird.
Yeah, well, these things happen at these meetings. So, all right, we'll move on to item 5, which is the continuation of the public hearing. Zone change for the 7430 High Bridge Road, Rolex Properties, LLC, residential R1 to residential R3. Again, with us tonight, representing Rolex Properties and Freeman's property, we have Brandon Jacobson and Scott Freeman. Is Scott here tonight? I don't see Scott. Josh Hines. Oh, Josh. And Gordon Stansbury. So
I think Gordon's under Josh's because Gordon didn't get an invite to the Zoom. So Josh is here with me in attendance, but
okay.
So
All right, good.
there's no Scott, I don't believe.
No Scott. Okay. All right. All right, Allison, since the last, when we had the, opened up the public hearing, do you have any other replies, responses that you'd like to share with the board before we move on?
Yes, so we have, in addition to the comments that I had earlier referenced, I'm gonna kind of go over them briefly. The town board has received all of them. There was a public comment from Barbara Brown. She is opposed to the development. She's concerned about the left-hand turn and traffic. And she was concerned that the property values would go down because of traffic.
Okay.
Then there was the letter from the residents of Ravine Ridge Estates. There were, as you can see, there were signatures, approximately, I believe, 16. They were also discussing concerns about traffic and aesthetics. That was mentioned at the last meeting. And then an email from Mark Bregman. He is concerned about the population density and construction on the floodplain, and also expressed concerns about traffic. Pat McKay expressed concerns about traffic patterns, and she was concerned about that. Then we had received a letter, an additional letter from Madeline Bort, and she said, and I'm sorry, it's handwritten, so just give me 1 second. She is concerned about traffic and that the project will be a detriment to the environment because of truck traffic, and that she is concerned about the additional vehicles that will be going in and out of the property. This letter I just had on my desk today, so we have put it in the mailboxes for the town board, but I did not have a chance to send it out electronically.
Allison, I had an email from Madeline, which I emailed to everybody, so they also
great.
got those messages before the meeting. I think.
Great.
Yeah, that was on my desk when I came in this afternoon. Got it over to Allison. It was like, good. So, all right, very good, Allison. Thank you. Anybody else on Allison? It's, I don't see any further comments from the public. It's on Zoom. I don't know. Facebook.
Yeah, there have not been any comments in the meeting itself. I am monitoring that, and I do not see any comments on Facebook. The Facebook lag does not appear to be too long today. So,
Okay, all right, then we, unless the board has anything else, we could possibly close the.
Ed, this is Caitlin. I'm having a hard time hearing what you're saying.
Really?
Yeah, it's like it seems like, I don't know, just like messed up a little bit. I don't know if it's not when Allison speaks, just maybe someone else isn't on mute that should be, and it's
That's what I was
background.
just gonna say. I think if we put ourselves on mute and it still happens, we'll know. But I think it's because it's feeding back from our speakers.
Yeah, Heather, I think you're right. So if everyone could just make sure they're on mute, if they're not speaking.
Right. Yeah.
Brandon, you're not muted. If you could please make sure you're muted. Thank you. That should be everybody.
Yeah, that seems to be a little bit better, right? Can you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's feedback. That's what we get sometimes. We forget. Yeah. With that, I would, unless there's
I have,
public comment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
well, I have some comments, but I don't know if it's for public or if it's after.
Well, we can certainly come out of the public hearing and then we can discuss it further.
Okay.
You know, if everyone's all right with that.
Are any of the attendees planning to comment on this topic? They should enter something in the Q&A if they want to say something now.
The attendees. Well, that's what we already asked. That's what I checked with Allison to see if we did have any other attendees, that if there were any other comments, and she said we didn't have any new ones. Right, Allison? I don't see any here, but that's what I said. I'm not privy to the Facebook, right? To the Facebook, sorry. old person's talk. But maybe, use,
Okay, if there's no, then I'll make a motion to come out of the public hearing, to close the public hearing.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. All right, I guess with that, I'd ask the board, I mean, I have a few things, a few statements to make, but ask the board if there's any further comments that any of you would like to make regarding this zone change.
So I have comments.
Sure.
So my concerns are, I've been looking into like what can be allowed in R1, what can be allowed in R3, and what I can tell is its density. I know there's different types of things that can also be added. So due to public concerns and density concerns, right, if we're adding more density to this parcel, it's going to create more runoff, and then we have to have stormwater management, which I understand that would be all planned for, but we're increasing that. And with the floodplain so close, so due to the proximity to the development next to Limestone Creek and the floodplain, I do believe R1 is the correct zoning for this parcel. So that's my comments.
Okay. Yeah, I think, again, you're right, Elaine. That's more of the site plan discussion, you know, where, and in fact, if you read the minutes, they do address those minutes, you know.
But my question is like, it's a zone, like we're changing the zone to increase density with R3. So I see that is a zoning question. And so for me, that's where I'm stuck.
Well, and I think the planning board addressed that. That's why they, and Doug, you probably, you know, it looks to me like they looked at all of those concerns. Size of the property, okay. They did look at the acreage, and they felt that with their concerns in those areas, that they still recommended that the zone change should be approved by the town board. The type of structures and uses that are followed in an R3 zone is consistent with the uses and the character of this busy corridor. And the presence of significant floodplain area on site further makes the R3 suitable use for usable areas of this property closest to a heavily trafficked street.
And I didn't understand that comment. Like why would R3 be more suitable next to a floodplain?
Doug, is that something that you can address?
Can I make a comment, Mr. Supervisor?
Sure, Brandon. Yeah, go ahead. Doug's still on mute.
I would say just to touch on some of the concern of called the stormwater, you know, that property has not been called addressed in over 40 years. So though we'll have more impervious space, you know, we're going to have accurate engineering that's called 2020 engineering that will have calculations that will be more in tune with the stormwater prevention program that was applied for or basically put in place just roughly 15 years ago. So I think actually we'll have more data that's more accurate now than back in the 70s and 80s when that building was really put into place. And though we're only using roughly about 15% of the green space there, I think we can easily control the stormwater and have, you know, studies done to make sure that there isn't too much runoff.
Okay. Did that help, Elaine?
Did Doug have anything to add?
Yeah, Doug, if you had something.
Unmute.
Yeah, you're still on mute, Doug.
No, still unmute.
Can you unmute him, Allison?
Elaine, it's Tim. The requirements under the stormwater pollution prevention laws, MS4 laws, will require that the rate of runoff on that site will be no greater than the rate of runoff that's coming off that site today. So from a development standpoint, that should all be mitigated by a stormwater pollution and prevention plan, which will create presumably detention ponds and drainage swales and drainage ways. So that's how we address the issue of how much water is coming off of the site. That is done during the planning process. But there will be a thorough look at that kind of that issue, that specific issue during that process.
Thank you. Thank you. That helps. But it's not my only concern because I know that that process happens in the planning board. But my concern with this particular parcel is that drop off, that it's so close to that it's just the typography of this parcel so I understand the character of R3 would be matching what's around it, but this particular parcel just has different characteristics than the ones that the other R3s are on.
Well, I would only say that I'm very familiar with Ravine Ridge, and because my mother lived there for a few years, and actually the topography of Ravine Ridge is basically a plateau with a total cliff down to the creek, and it doesn't have the grade or the call it extra green space that this property has. And I mean, I think if you went in there, you would see it's very abrupt from the rear of those properties. It goes from basically townhome to deck to 50-foot drop off. And again, I know it's a different time, maybe when that was built, but also, I mean, the surrounding properties are R3 here. And I don't know if I don't know if my map was accurate that I submitted, but from what I can see from the town, part of this property was still in R3 already. So I think that there was, at some point, there seemed to be an intention for this to become R3 if all the other surrounding properties were R3.
Doug, it looks like you got unmuted. No, I lost you. Where did Doug go?
He unmuted and then he disappeared.
Yeah, boy. Okay, thank you, Brandon. That, and a lot of the letters that we're getting really have to do with the traffic control and the traffic studies that they'll, and of course, there's always construction concerns early on. There's Doug. Early on, that is always, part of the process. I remember there was a concern up with the cruise ship on land, how big that was, and the area.
We have Doug now.
Doug, go ahead. Can you, I know Tim addressed some of these and Brandon did. Do you want to add anything? You're unmuted.
Ed, I just wanted to, Randy and I met this morning and he spoke with Sarah earlier this week about zoning being updated or not updated. Randy, is there something you wanted to add about the current zoning around this piece of property?
Yeah, the 2008 map shows R3 across the street, kitty corner, east R3, and south R3.
Enter your meeting ID.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think everybody can mute again when you're talking, Randy. That's what we're having right now.
Because I can hear a lot of feedback. Okay, the current map is different than the map from 2008. The properties around it are not R3, they're R1. So the map that we see from 2008 zoning that has R3 all the way around it is not R3, it's R1 or the 2016 zoning map.
So you're saying that was changed between 2008 and?
Yeah, I have both maps up in front of me here, and the one for 2008 has R3 around it. The 2016 is R1 all the way around.
So is Green Ridge is in R1 then?
It can't be.
I'm hearing feedback again. If everyone could just make sure they're muted if they're not speaking. It's really distracting. Brandon, I think it might be you again. Thank you.
Yeah, if you pull up the current 16 zoning map, you'll see that it's light green. Okay, to the south, to the east, to the north, and over to the creek and over the other side of the creek.
Can you
It
share
shows-
screen, Randy?
What's that?
Can you share your screen?
Seriously? That's beyond my level.
It's on the town website. I can pull it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, the town website zoning map. And it's got R1.
Yep.
Whereas the map presented
So,
shows R3.
so they changed Huntwood, Ravine Ridge, and Spectrum Way to R1?
It's R1 on the current zoning map.
But how it was, so it was approved as R3 and they changed existing projects to R1 after the fact?
I don't know when or how it was changed. All I know is looking at the two maps comparisons, they asked me to take a look at them and it shows different R1 and R3.
But wouldn't it take a legislative act to be able to change existing projects to an R1 zoning if they're already approved and built as R3?
I don't know. I'm just going by what the current maps show. I don't know how it got to be that. I
But I
wasn't
mean,
here then.
but under current R1 zoning, none of those projects would be, they wouldn't be within the R1 zoning. I mean, you can't have attached products under R1 zoning.
Can they be grandfathered in as existing builds?
Wouldn't that be considered, yeah, wouldn't that be considered just non-conforming? Is that sort of the idea that?
That doesn't make any sense. Can we get some
No,
kind of ruling on?
So the answer to the question about whether the zoning has changed, the only way it could have changed is be going through the same process we're going through now. So that would have had to take place. I, since 2008, don't remember any zone changes over there, but I might be wrong. It's something we're gonna have to look into.
No, Tim, I can view, there have been no zone changes on that property since we've been involved since 2008. The other thing, Elaine, I apologize. I've had problems getting in here, so I'm coming back through as an attendee. But you know, your question about going from R1 to R3, you're correct. There would be an increased density going from R1 to R3.
Right. All right. Okay, but again, that's what we're doing, and the planning board apparently took all that under consideration in their planning process, correct?
So Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a sidebar action to resolve this zoning issue. Maybe Randy and Tim could do some exploration of that. I just think we need to have documented resolution of what's been going on with the zoning in that area for the next meeting or the one after, at least, just so we get that cleared up.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there, Sarah. I mean, let's tie up the loose ends, so to speak, here. So we've closed the public hearing, but it doesn't mean we have to make a decision tonight,
No.
but, right, Tim? So,
No, you don't have to make a decision tonight. The other thing that I noticed, Brandon, is on your maps, you're not showing the R1 and the RA. You're not delineating that. So I don't, and I know your legal description covers all 23 acres. So can you on the map, one of those maps, show where R1 is that you're asking for the zone change for? Unless I missed it, I can't find it on any of the maps.
Well, are we, hold on one second. Are we? Hang on, pardon me one second. I'm just gonna read this doc.
all right.
Tim, could you answer if we have to do seeker to do a zone change?
Yes, you do have to do seeker. We can do seeker
Could we,
tonight.
could we do that just so we keep the process moving?
Well, that would be a good idea.
Do you want to do that right now? Should we go
Yeah,
through that process?
Brandon, did you have something you want to get back on, or are we gonna do the seeker first?
I think we need to close the public hearing.
We did.
Yeah, you closed it already, so you made the motion and it's been closed.
So I'll make a motion to declare the town board as lead agency for seeker review of this. What type, is this unlisted action?
It's an unlisted action.
Unlisted action, yep. Second?
I think, to clarify, if I can for a minute, I believe that the reason behind our asking for the zone change for the entire property is because of the density computation for a 278 cluster. Though we don't have intention of using call it area that's in the floodplain, we had provided in the last meeting a density plan and then a to be built plan.
Okay, so your request is for the entire 23 acres to be R3.
R3 and then perform a 278 cluster. That's what
Right,
we
but-
talked about at the planning board.
Right, but you understand that the town board is given the authority to the planning board to make the decision on 278 clustering.
Correct. But I'm just reiterating why, I guess is the.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for clarification, right, the planning board did not speak to the 278. They have no opinion on that at this time. And I think that was in their recommendation to the town board.
Brandon, thank you for that clarification. So that the floodplain is not, you're not planning to build on it, but you need it in order to qualify for the level of 278.
Yeah, I think as I spoke on in the last meeting, our plan was to use call it the higher ground to develop and put these townhomes on and use the remaining acreage as an enhancement to the rest of the property. Meaning, to have the the green space that would be part of the remaining HOA community.
Thank you.
Sarah had a motion on the floor to be lead agency and have an unlisted action. Do we have a second for that?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Okay, Heather, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good. Tim, did you want to go through the seeker process?
Yes. Yep. So the applicant has filled out part 1 of the short environmental assessment form. It's our responsibility to go through part 2. And I will start with question number 1. And the answer is either no or small impact or moderate to large impact.
Doug, is that your phone that's not muted, that's feeding back?
Might be Brandon. Oh, there we go.
Brandon's muted. There's a phone number and it's just echoing like crazy and it's driving me insane.
It's muted now.
There we go. Thank you, Doug. Or whomever it was that muted that number. Tim, by all means, please continue.
So question number 1 is, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? Will the impact, and I think that largely has to do, or largely will be answered to some extent by the issue of whether the property surrounding it are R1 or R3. Going into today, we expected that they would be all R3 around them. That's what we thought they were, but we have to, Randy and I are going to have to look into that. So the question is probably unresolved. Does anybody want to?
Well, we won't be able to answer that till you find out what happened between 2008 and 2016.
I agree. Will the proposed action result in the change in use of intensity of the land? It will clearly, going from R1 to R3. Do you think it will be a small or a moderate to large impact?
Well, I think it's a small impact, but Elaine thinks it's a large impact.
Yeah, but it's such a small area. I think it is
Yeah,
a small impact too, Sarah.
right, like the whole parcel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about, yeah.
Okay, no to small. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? I think the answer to that is no to small, since there are many other townhouses in the vicinity of this that look like what's being proposed.
Yep.
Does anybody disagree with that?
No, that's good.
Will it cause the will it impact the environmental characteristics of a CEA? The answer to that is no. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walking? We have been presented with a study and answers to questions that have been raised by residents about the traffic. And Gordon Stansberry, I think he's on this call or on this meeting, has indicated that from his professional view, this will not have a significant impact on traffic.
Okay.
Does anybody disagree with that?
If the traffic study said no, then.
All right. Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Answer is no. Will it impact existing public-private water supplies, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Brandon, is this on public water?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you'll have to get a letter from Aqua, and you'll have to get a letter from
Yep. From
WEP.
what?
Yep. Saying
Yep.
that they could get the capacity.
Correct.
Okay. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? We're not aware of any.
So no.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? It's
I
pretty
think
much-
that's one where the concern is that we want to be sure that the banks of the creek are maintained.
okay.
Yep.
And it's usually able to be mitigated, not usually, if it isn't able to be mitigated through a stormwater pollution and prevention plan, then the project can't go forward.
Right.
Okay, will the proposed action result in an increase in potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? I guess the answer to that is the same answer that I had for the last one, which is a stormwater pollution and prevention plan will be required, and it has to show that the rate of runoff is no greater post development than pre-development.
Correct.
And that would be required whether anything was being developed on that property. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environment, resources, or human health? I don't think so. Notice small. Does anybody disagree with notice small?
Nope.
Those are the 11 questions. Based on those questions, and based on the fact that this is a 23, potentially a 23 lot subdivision, and in order for it to be a type 1 action, it would have to be 250, I think. To be a type 1 action, I would recommend, I think, and Doug would probably recommend a negative declaration on this project.
Is that right, Doug? Yep, he thinks so. I read his lips. Okay.
Yeah, so I think what my concern is I don't think we can vote on this without the resolution of the zoning issue.
No, not yet, Sarah. You're right. Yeah.
In terms of,
I don't think we can really know what the outcome needs to be without knowing what happened to the zoning.
Right. But can you make a determination of going from R1 to R3 in terms of the environmental impact? Can you make that determination tonight?
Yeah, I would say that would be.
All right, so I can make that motion that it would be a small impact. And so it fits in the notice small.
Okay.
So, and that would be a negative declaration under.
Negative declaration.
Right. So that's a motion you're making, Sarah?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor.
Do we have a second? Oh,
Awesome.
Karen raised her hand. Okay. Karen, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Carried. All right, excellent. So go ahead, Tim.
With that, I think we need to do a little bit more research on this and to determine whether or not this really would look like a spot zoning issue if we changed it from R1 to R3. So that will be Randy and my next task.
Okay, all right.
I am concerned too that I think we were thinking that the front would be R3 and the back would be RA. So I am concerned by that as well.
Yeah, that was my recollection too.
Okay. All right, so we will continue this at our next board meeting. What is today? The 20, oh, we're into July, which will be July 8th. If that's fine with everyone, that sound good? Okay. Speaking of that, before we move on to number 6, because we don't need a motion for that, right, Tim? We can just move it to the next meeting for discussion.
Yes. Are you available next meeting, Brandon?
Yep, I'll be available.
Good. Yeah, what I was going to say was we've been, just to get off topic a little bit, you know, we've talked about when are we going to be back in our boardroom. And I know Ann and I have talked about it, a few others, and yeah, we're really shooting, at least for us as the board and all the public officials there, that we could be back like we did in the village of Manlius, where we can all be in the same room, and we'll do the live stream, and we'll still Zoom probably. Or maybe just, I don't know, John. You know, you're the expert there.
We are currently working through the many facets of that technological challenge, but I'm feeling pretty confident that we're going to have a solution that only adds to the current situation. It doesn't take away any of the new features and openness of these meetings. So I'm feeling pretty good about it.
And John, we talked about actually trying to get the open podium possibly available at that time, so we can have public comment before the meetings like we did before all this stuff happens.
Yeah, we're thinking that'll definitely be possible. We have kind of gone through all the motions that would make it possible. Yep. So I think we're there. Even if we have to stay on Zoom for a bit, I do think we'll be able to figure out a way to make that work as well.
Good. Because I know it's difficult. I know people would like to participate, during these meetings now, and of course we have to make it fair to everyone. No one can. So until we can get that open podium again, it's difficult to do that. But this is working out well with the public hearings. I mean, we're doing, 1 or 2 times later, or sorry, Brandon, but a third. but under the circumstances, I think you understand what we have to do. All right.
Am I all set, Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, you're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Allison, let's move on to 6 and 7. Why don't you address the situation there, so we can see where we're going with these public hearings?
Yes. So I spoke with the Eagle Bulletin, and they had experienced some technical difficulties of their own. And so they had republished our notices from the last meeting. So it doesn't get us off track in the sense that we have been holding the public meetings open for 2 cycles. But what that means is today I recommended to the supervisor that he just accept public comment on both of the public hearings that are scheduled for this evening. We have already officially republished for the July 8th meeting, which will meet our legal requirement and be consistent with the timeline that we already had. And so we can accept the official public comment then. I do not have any public comment on the special permit law. I do, however, have 2 comments on the Hale Road. And I would just read them into the record at this time and then put them in the official record.
That would be good. Yeah, let's do that. Since we can't open, but we can at least talk about it. So should we start with the, well, the first one is the special permit.
Yes, and I would just like to say that we do have a few attendees in the room who are actually experiencing a little bit of the bump back that we are trying to remedy because they have applied for special permits themselves. but also have the site plan to go through as well. Lisa and I sat down and we looked at the calendar, and even with them waiting for this law to be enacted, it would actually be faster for them than to do the special permit process as it exists today. So
Perfect.
I felt like, you know, everyone seemed to be in favor of this proposed change. I felt confident of letting them know that, and advised them that they should just wait, because then they could do special permit and site plan together at the planning board meeting on July 13th. We've spoken with the planning board about that as well. So those attendees are in the room kind of waiting for to hear if there was any feedback from the board against that. And if we did feel like there was, that we would then set a date for their own public hearing.
Yeah, that
Okay, so so then the two comments that I have on Hale Road, Barb Wilson submitted a comment and said, I would like to know background information as to why there is now no parking allowed on Palmer Road. I must have missed the public decision when the public meeting when this decision was made. Faith and I have been going up to watch the sunset there for years, decades really. Always people greet each other in a friendly way and sit quietly and enjoy the sunsets. I'm sorry the town felt the need to put signs up, but I don't understand why. I also wonder if there is a chance for us to put in a limited number of parking spaces along the edge of that road, so the tradition of going to what everyone here calls the top of the world can continue. If there has been some trouble up there, I don't know about it. I question whether no parking signs are the right answer. I understand there will be discussion on June 24th about putting more signs up, this time on Hale Road. Parking is a much more dangerous there, so I understand why this would be a safety concern. That is not the case on Palmer Road. It is my intention to let the board know that there is a considerable disappointment in our community about the loss of this cherished space, in hopes we can find a better solution that will allow the public to enjoy the spot again. Amber Sarani, who is, I believe, also an attendee in the room, has submitted a comment. And she said, the street at the top of the world is a public street, not a private driveway. If we are concerned about public safety, maybe widen the street and make it safer for people to park and watch the sunset. Deal with the littering with police enforcement, but I don't think it's fair to prohibit people from using a public street. And those are the only two comments that I have received in regards to the Hale Road.
I would recommend, unless anyone has a different opinion. I know that, I mean, Rob has the history going back a long way, but we could probably hold off until we actually open the public hearing to address those comments, but at least they've been submitted to us for our concerns. Does that make sense to everybody? Oh, yes, Karen, you're muted. Go ahead.
Yeah. How many parking signs were being considered? I haven't seen a number on that. How many parking signs were being considered to put along Hale Road? No parking signs.
Rob could answer that.
Karen, that's gonna have to be determined, you know, as far as they want to do the whole road, or if we're gonna just do sections of Hale Road. You know, the MUTCD rules will mandate how far apart they have to be. So those are all state regulated, you know, distances between those signs. So it all determines whether you're gonna do the whole road or just portions of the road, or whatever the determination the board wants to make. We can determine, you know, the distances of those signs.
Okay, that answer your question then? Yep. Elaine, go ahead.
So I just have a question. What type of road is this? Like, I know there's different classifications. So do they own all the way to the center of the road, or do we own the shoulder?
I believe, Elaine, that Hale Road is a road by use, if I'm not mistaken, and it is a town road. Palmer Road is obviously a county road. We don't own Palmer Road.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll continue these conversations next meeting, right, Allison? So you've already do we have to reapply, did you say, or
We've already republished this in the paper. So we will meet our legal requirements on July 8th. And I just wanted to add that Amber Sarani had further commented that she'd like to see a commitment from the board to keeping this access to the top of the world. Someone suggested we could go to Heritage Hill and watch the sunset, which costs $5 per car, and gives a different vantage point.
Hi there. May I
Go
say
ahead.
something? So I just wanted to point out that there was that was probably a quote from the news article or the news coverage that Channel 9 did, where I suggested that we have local businesses that actually have vantage points that are designed for safe parking. So not all of them charge to do that for sure, but a lot of people, when I posted the article, I had a number of friends who live in the town who sort of talked about their experiences with Top of the World and their interests in going, and being kind of sad that an opportunity to, look at the sunset with your family was sort of something that was going to be possibly, impeded. Well, it certainly, this is not the case for the Hale Road signs, considering the fact that the Palmer Road signs were already up. And we do need to support, I think, the police in protecting public safety, since there's no shoulder there really, and no place to actually safely drive while people are parked alongside anyway. But in my view, but also we have sort of this interesting development with people saying, I thought this was an interesting outcome. People really, really feel a connection to the place. And in thinking about this in relationship to comprehensive planning, it's like, well, this is why we're going to do comprehensive planning, because we want to know if community members feel especially engaged with certain space and land. And if it ever became the case that any of the private landowners wanted to sell land, a trust, individual people could buy land and try and donate it to the town, or the town could take steps to maybe in different financial circumstances than the ones we're going to be facing post-COVID, but and probably post-recession. But the town could look at how to make a plan for public space and public parks and in like this. But we're not talking about land that exists for that purpose now, or extra cash that we have set aside for a parks plan. And the town, of course, as we know, does not have any parks. So I just wanted to think, I know that John Preisner and Mary Kay Peters are two residents on Hale Road that are here now. And so I wanted to acknowledge, their engagement and their communication with us, along with the other residents on Hale, and apologize that we're not able to have the hearing this meeting now, but that because of the printing error and the legal notices, we have to open next meeting. And thank people for engaging, even if they didn't do it formally. We always encourage people to write directly to us so we can enter it into the record. So I'm communicating anecdotally what I heard, but I always want to encourage people to write directly to the whole board.
Yeah, very good, Heather. Sarah, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to go back to item 6 with regard to the special permit. One of the issues with the special permit is to permit, as Allison opened up with, to be able to move to streamline the process, because anybody who needs a special permit also needs a site plan, and to combine those processes. So in terms of responding to the constituents who are in that place right now, I just want to say that we can't close the public hearing, but if there was any objection among the board members that they could express this evening, so that we could respond to that by the meeting on the 8th and vote on the 8th, so we could wrap this up. So I just want to entertain if there's any questions or concerns from board members with regard to the local law delegating special permit issuance to the planning board, so that we could be sure it would be resolved on the July 8th meeting.
That's a very good point, Sarah. Does anyone have any concerns or comments? I mean, we've gone over that quite. Yes, Doug. Are you muted still?
Go ahead.
Sarah, to that point, the planning board was very receptive towards the town board adopting this Monday night.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I agree, Sarah. I think we've done especially you put a lot of energy into this, and it certainly makes sense to get this done. And I think we pretty much agreed on this at the last meeting. So I think this might be one public hearing that we can vote on the same night. That'd be nice, you know, so let's shoot that as a goal.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
If there's no other questions, let's just assume we can hear from anybody who responds to the public hearing and then make a decision on July 8th.
Absolutely. Yep, that would be perfect. Yep. Okay, everyone? All right. Okay, let's move on to item 8, which is a zone initial presentation. We're not doing a public hearing. We're here to listen to the Pennanzatos, which, by the way, I'll read off the zone application change. J.S. Pennanzatos Real Estate Inc., 4581 Enders Road, residential RM to the request of commercial A or CA. So with us tonight, I saw John Lange earlier. Are you still here, John? And Greg, I didn't see Greg, and I see Stella, but not John Pennanzato. So
I'm right here, Ed. I couldn't register from a different device, so we're on together. So I mean, Allison, for the meeting, for the record, I guess I'm on. I'm over here somewhere.
Yeah, and so what I just ask you to do, and I'm sure you're prepared, is so that board and anyone who's watching is familiar with what you're proposing. Before we go to the set of public hearing, then if you can give us the presentation you'd like. We've received all the correspondence, regarding your request, and all the detailed information from Dennis. I'm going to you would like to give that presentation. I don't know if you're able to put the screenshots. Are they able to do that, Allison or John? Prepared for that?
I think John Lange was going to make the presentation.
Mr. Supervisor, very, very briefly, I think a number of your board members know who I am. My name is John Lange. I'm a lawyer with Costello, Cooney and Fearon. I'm also, my day job is like Tim, an attorney for a number of different towns. I also work for residents of towns that want to develop projects, and I'm lucky enough to be representing the Pennanzatos tonight. I believe the entire board is very familiar with the Pennanzatos, and in particular this property. I live in Casanova. I drive by it every single day. I've seen it for many, many, many years. The request tonight is to ask the board to advance our application for a zone change from the parcel's existing RM zoning to the commercial A designation, which would allow the Pennanzatos, we believe, to develop the property in an appropriate manner and make it a piece of property that works not only for the town, but for the Pennanzatos, for the community. Tonight, our hope would be to get a motion to advance it to the planning board for that recommendation. And I can entertain any questions, but it is true that Greg Scromo will be our design professional, is our design professional. He is in the town of Geddes tonight and said he would try to jump on if this item came up after he got out. But I don't think we'll have enough time to hear from Greg, but I will entertain any questions that the board may have. The one thing I do want to say is the Pennanzatos are very sincere in their love for the town and their commitment to the residents of the town and the services that they provide to families in the town. And they believe that appropriate development of this particular parcel can be done in a manner that will please the town board members and the community, as well as get that piece of property on the tax roll in the way that it should be on the tax roll. It's interesting right now with my practice, we're not seeing much development in many of the towns I represent right now. Because somebody mentioned we're in a recession. It's true, but the Pennanzatos are committed to getting this property in a manner in which it will work for the town. It'll work for the tax rolls, and to do that, they need to redesignate the property to commercial A, and those uses that are listed in your commercial A district. They often get inquiries as to that property that's been marketed for some time, and they field many, many calls. Unfortunately, almost all of the calls are for uses that might fall under the commercial B designation. We're aware of the board's current position on that. So at this time, the Pennanzatos have indicated that they'd like to have the application be submitted for commercial A and move in that direction. So that's our request tonight.
So the process here is that we would first agree to send this to the planning board to consider this zone change, and then it comes back to us for a public hearing. Is that the idea?
Correct.
So what we would do, Mr. Supervisor, is send it to the planning board for a recommendation on the zone change request. And the planning board would give us their advice on that. And then we'd be in a position to move it forward to a public hearing.
So I would move to send this proposal to the planning board for their recommendation.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I have a minimal discussion. Just for your reference, I've been on the board now through this as is Karen and as Sarah. And my concern still is, the fact that we have a court of study, that it is RM, and that was supposed to be. But I'm willing to send this on to the planning board. Let's hear what the public has to say when it comes. Because that's who really to make the decision. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. All right, let's send down then. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye now.
Okay. Okay, now we move on. Okay, let's get number 8. We're on to number 9. All right, resolution recognizing Pride Month. Heather, this is yours. Why don't you take it from here, huh? You've been...
Thank you so much. Well, I wanted to thank you all. I introduced at the last meeting and read the preamble for the resolution. And I'd love to read the resolution again and also invite at least, I know we have a couple of folks joining who might want to speak in support of the resolution. And if any of the board members want to join me in supporting speaking about the resolution before voting on it, that would be terrific. I wanted to open up my copy. Forgive me for not having it printed out. I'm trying to be loving the earth here. Here we go. So, as you know, this is June is Pride Month, and it came about historically to honor the same month that the Stonewall riots happened in, and the Stonewall anniversary is June 28th. But Pride is recognized around the world for the entire month, and as an opportunity to recognize and recommit to protecting the rights and lifting up the voices of people in the LGBTQIA community and in our community. This is really important to me because I have often thought about the people that I grew up alongside and my own personal experience as a person who has identified as different letters along the way on the LGBTQI spectrum. The people that I grew up with who didn't feel as though they got signs from our town that they belonged here, and felt not only the pressure of going through their own identification, understanding, awakening, but also not getting signs that how they identified and who they loved was, and those two separate things, that those were part of the values of our town, being that they'd be positively embraced forever and would be warmly welcomed. I believe, though, that those are the values of our town. So I think this resolution gets us further and closer to bridging that gap. And I hope that this resolution, should it pass, is a first step towards bringing our awareness top of mind as we're doing lots of things, making decisions and looking at how we operate, looking at how we bring people in through our human resources processes, you name it, but how inclusive we really are. So let me go ahead and read it. Recognizing Pride Month in the town of Manlius, New York. LGBTQIA people have always lived in the suburbs, but discrimination often meant that most openly gay men and lesbians in the 1940s and 1950s had few options other than to live in older cities. The US government helped to define the suburbs after World War II. Officials of the Federal Housing and Veterans Administrations pushed banks to give mortgages to married men with children and forbade them to lend to Americans they perceived as representative of sexual deviance. And I say that phrase, it's in quotes in the resolution, but as a sidebar, I would say that it's really quite bigoted to even use that phrase any longer. The 1944 GI Bill was the first law in US history to specifically exclude gay people from federal benefits, including mortgage assistance. In the 2 decades after World War II, urban centers in the US attracted sizable LGBTQ communities. This divide between city and suburb started to break down in the 1970s and the 1980s. Government officials also prohibited discrimination in lending to unmarried people. In 1970, the number of Americans living in suburbs exceeded the number in central cities for the first time. Openly gay and transgender residents were part of this new suburban diversity. The town of Manlius has not publicly addressed these facts within its own history and aims to do so today, letting those in the LGBTQIA community who have ever worked or resided here be assured that they are recognized and respected and beyond the protection of their equality and civil rights, that they belong here. To recognize the contributions of the LGBTQIA community to the town of Manlius, the following resolution is being presented, and we hope to be moved and adopted today, June 24th. Whereas the town of Manlius supports the rights, freedoms, and equality of persons who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and or asexual, LGBTQIA, and whereas local government entities employ people and provide direct services to every resident, and local governments affect the daily lives of every resident in ways both big and small, whereas the town is committed to creating an inclusive and diverse workplace, providing training and prohibiting anti-LGBTQIA discrimination in employment and incorporating that prohibition into personnel policies, including prohibiting town employees from discriminating in services, activities, and programs. Whereas 71% of the LGBTQ youth in a national 2019 Trevor Project study reported experiencing discrimination due to either their sexual orientation or gender identity, and more than half of transgender youth considered suicide. More than half of transgender youth considered suicide. Whereas 83% of respondents to a 2017 AARP study of older LGBT Americans said that community size is less important than LGBT friendliness in maintaining their dignity and quality of life. Whereas those who took a stand for human rights and dignity at the Stonewall Inn in New York on June 28th, 1969, are among the pioneers within the human rights movement. Therefore, now it be resolved that the Manlius Town Board recognizes the continued struggles of the LGBTQIA community, and be it further resolved that the Manlius Town Board recognizes June as Pride Month in the state of New York, and be it further resolved that the town recommits itself to partnering with the Onondaga Human Rights Commission and the Onondaga County Human Rights Commission and local partner agencies that serve the LGBTQIA community for training and consultation. And be it further resolved that the Philadelphia Design Pride flag, the new Pride flag, or the Progress Design Pride flag be raised at the Manlius Town Hall for all the days in June after this resolution is adopted, to fly every day in June going forward, and be lowered the last day of the month of June every year from 2020 forward. Thank you so much for letting me read this. And may I now turn
to accept the resolution, right? Make a motion.
Well, sure. I'd love to have the voices of anybody who supports the resolution be recognized if we could first.
Oh, well, that would be a vote usually. That I mean, you've said it. I don't know any more you can say than what has been put in there, Heather. You covered a lot of history, a lot of years.
Okay.
A lot of
absolutely.
A lot of struggle and I think a lot of problems that have occurred over the years for all the letters that you mentioned there that we talked about, so I
think we have somebody in the room who's scheduled to speak.
We do?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were doing that. Okay, but yeah, can you go ahead, Heather? You have your,
Allison, I believe, do you have,
do
you have the information? Is it Catherine De La Garza? It's
not on my
list. Who's on her list?
Yes, it's on the list that I sent out this afternoon. Yes. I call her Kate, but it's Kate De La Garza.
Yeah, Kate.
Names.
I apologize, Kate. I didn't have you on the list.
Oh, and we have Marisa too, which is great. Marisa grew up in the community. And yeah, and one of the craziest things I'll tell you is the coolest things. One of the reasons we want people to move back here, while Marisa and Kate were living in Seattle, Kate emailed me and said, I think I married someone you grew up with. And I knew Kate from our college circle friends. And sure enough, they were moving back to the area, and I got to know both of them separately in life and then get to see them raise their beautiful family here. So thank you for joining us, you guys.
I apologize. I must have had an old list, Allison, sorry. But go ahead. Yeah, if Kate, please speak up. I know we'll be seeing you tomorrow morning, I think, possibly, or...
Yeah, sure. I hope to be, I mean, I don't have anything too formal to say. First of all, Catherine, Kate, and Marisa, my wife, De La Garza, we live in Huntley Park over here in Fayetteville. And we moved here about 5 years ago, as Heather mentioned, from Seattle. As you can imagine, a bit of a difference to move from a larger city, definitely more diverse and more LGBTQ families that we lived around than exist, today in FM. And so it's been a process of getting used to that. And I just want to say thank you to Heather and to the town for even considering this resolution. And not just, it's easy to celebrate and focus on pride, because that is a joyful thing that has been, adopted across the nation and in many towns. But I really appreciated that the resolution grounded itself in the exclusion, that unfortunately most, and FM in particular, suburbs were grown by here, whether it be racial, sexuality, or gender, because that does have a legacy, into today. And therefore, being in a minority here, and then being, as folks know, I'm very proud and vocal member of the LGBTQ community here. And so, being in a minority, we're the only, I think, that we know of. I use the word queer. I hope that doesn't offend anyone. That's how I identify. In our elementary school, for example, it's definitely different. And I guess at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that it's hard to feel like you belong here sometimes when you're in such a minority. Of course, there are other gay folks who live out here, and we know most of them, I think. But what that means is that this kind of action makes a really big difference for folks like us, to not only recognize the exclusion, that places like this were built on, but to say that today we see you, we celebrate you, and you belong here too, and you're an important part of our community, is really impactful. for LGBTQ folks out here, families like ours, kids like ours who are growing up in our family. And especially, I think I just want to mention what Heather referenced is that, you know, somewhere between 1 and 10% of kids growing up in FM today are going to become adults and identify as one of these letters, LGBTQI or A. And for those kids during the month of June to drive by the Manlius Town building and to see a pride flag flying proudly, to know that the town sees them and recognizes them during a time when they may be being bullied, when they may be considering, you know, self-harm or suicide at a rate much higher than their peers because of how the world still experiences them, you know, that makes a difference. And it makes a really big difference right now in the world, especially for kids who have multiple identities like queer and Black or queer and Latino, or, you know, and suffering from different and multiple marginalizations. So I basically just want to say thank you and really appreciate this resolution being presented. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you'll vote yes, because it really does make a difference in our lives.
Well, I'd like to personally welcome you back.
Marisa grew up here.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, you are more than welcomed in our community. And certainly tomorrow morning, that'll be a proven point when we raise the flag tomorrow. So thank you very much, Kate, and well spoken. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to add, I don't know how we could. That was perfect.
And I wanted to just thank Heather for this resolution. I really do feel like it's very profound, and Heather, thank you for inviting your guests to join us. Kate, I really appreciate the thoughts that you shared. There is a lot of intersectionality with with different communities and the struggles that we're facing, and so it would be to have the opportunity to show pride and to show that Manlius is for every family, no matter what they look like or how they identify. I think that there's so much opportunity in this month and in this year and going forward to continue to ring the bell that that Manlius is for everyone. So thank you so much for your words, and Heather, thank you for this resolution. I think it was beautifully written, and I'm looking forward to voting on it.
So Heather, we only need two more things, or three. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to vote on this resolution. And I'd like to thank also CNY Pride and SAGE and the Q Center of ACR Health and the Human Rights Commission in the county and all the broader, I think because towns haven't embraced resolutions like this, people in the community have looked more regionally for how to connect. And so just want to acknowledge that all the people in the community who are doing things are doing that across the towns. And I would be really excited to talk with other towns if they'd be thinking about passing similar resolutions or joining together with us in working with people. And that's it. I just want to make a motion to vote on the resolution.
Can I second that resolution?
Absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. There you go. Unanimous.
Thank you so much.
All right. Very good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Well done, Heather.
Thank you. Actually, it's a perfect time. Then we can say that tomorrow morning we're going to raise the pride flag at 8:30 a.m. So if you're watching this on our stream, please join us. And we're also going to technically figure out how to put it onto our Facebook page somehow. We'll do that. Thank you.
Technically put it on the flagpole too. So let's work on that. All right, let's move on to item 10, which is the recreation summer virtual staff. I think we need, looks like board approval. Karen, is this something?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be happy to add, you know, the recreation program has to take on a whole different plan this year, and they have done an outstanding job, I must say. They have developed a stay and play program, and it is over half full already. So Christine and Peggy have really been quite creative in putting this together. This is very different from years past because we only need approval for 5 members of the program staff. So I would like to make a motion to approve the recreational staff as presented.
I have to second that. Thank you so much to the whole team. They're doing a fabulous job.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, we've been communicating with the supervisors and all the things that they're doing, and this has been I mean, it's really far-reaching what everyone's doing in these days with COVID and what have you. And I commend them on their creativity today. So we had a motion. Did we have a second?
Heather, I think.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good. Thank you, Karen. Trash and brush contract extension. I think you've all, I think Ann sent out the bids that we went through. Allison, I think you have those as well. Did you want to talk on that, or Ann?
We had discussed it at the last, actually at the May 27th meeting, and had emailed all the bids to everyone. And we got very close to voting on it, and then we did not after further research. So in order to officially do that, if you would like, you would need to make a motion to opt to use the 1-year extension for the trash and brush contract.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Mr. Supervisor, I would make that motion to take the company up on the 5th year of the trash and brush contract.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Carried. All right. Very good. Thank you, Allison. And, all right. And next item is the proposed hydrants on Apple Tree Ridge and Troop K, north of Armstrong Road. We got that. Rob, I think you're sort of handling this one, aren't you? With reference to the, one day they're going to spell my name right when they send this out. But maybe you can talk about this a little bit, what we need to do.
I think Doug has a little bit more of the particulars, I think, on the hydrants.
Okay.
But I do know that I've received an application from Aqua to extend that 8-inch water main, up Apple Tree Ridge there. So that'll coincide with the hydrants. And typically all we do is get, a motion from the board to pass to work within the right of way and install the 8-inch main in the right of way. But I think I'll let Doug elaborate on the hydrants situation there.
Okay, Doug. Go ahead, Doug, if you want to. Yep.
Good to go, Doug.
Carol Alakwa of Troop K Road has requested a water extension down Apple Tree Ridge to the corner of Troop K and Apple Tree. In doing so, the Idaho County Water Authority has moved forward with that project. In doing so, it requires 2 hydrants because it's over the state standards for fire protection. So there'll be 1 hydrant up near Armstrong. There'll be 1 down there, Troop K. And when they put those hydrants into play, the water district pays a hydrant fee and a maintenance charge that are above and beyond the water district. So like we've done in the past, the town has to accept the hydrants, and then Ann will incorporate those costs into the consolidated water district so that we can move forward. So administratively, this is something we see quite often. But the background is that Carol has asked for the water extension, and it's been granted. And if you go out there, they've marked it, and the work should be moving forward shortly.
So, Sarah, go ahead.
So Doug, is that because they're planning to develop new homes on the west side of Apple Tree Ridge?
No, Carol Lockwood has reached out to us in the past with some issues with, she does not currently have public water. So she's right on the corner. She has the horse farm. She's right next to the Cavalry Club maintenance garage. So she just wants public water for her house.
So will the other houses on Apple Tree Ridge and Armstrong get public water as a result of this?
They will be available to do so, yes. And what Patrick Sherlock has told me is Carol is paying for this on her own.
So this hydrant maintenance rate of $73.04, is that what goes into that district, Dan? Is that how that works, Doug?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or?
Mr. Supervisor, I would make the motion to approve the hydrants and allow Aqua to work in our right of way to install the water main.
A second?
I'll second.
Second, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. All right, thank you, Doug. Thank you, Rob. And thank you, board. Okay. Oh, Sarah, you're up. We have the Planning Process Committee review of the commercial zoning classifications. So I think you have some information to share with us tonight.
So thank you, everybody. The Planning Process Committee was started actually 2 years ago now. And we reviewed a number of different aspects, but one of the main things that came about was this is combined meeting of the Planning and Zoning Department, the Planning Board, and the Town Board, and Allison, just trying to consolidate some issues around streamlining our zoning. And as we learned earlier this evening, that there's some gaps in our zoning has been documented. This particular project was a review of the entire group of commercial zones to standardize the language, clarify some of the definitions, clarify what's allowed or not allowed in which location. We have new verbiage for every zone and a chart of allowed usages, which will be forthcoming for you. So today's meeting is an introduction of that and an invitation to come to a Zoom training that will be a webinar, a recorded thing that you can watch at your own leisure. And anybody interested in coming to the public hearing can watch it at their own leisure to understand what the purpose of the changes and what actually was changed versus what's not changed. And so what we're basically introducing tonight is this public information opportunity so that when you come to the public hearing, you would understand what is in fact up for review and be able to ask questions or provide your community input to however you want that to be. And we're inviting everybody on the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals to also participate in this training webinar, which won't be long, but just to kind of get an overview of exactly what was intended by these changes, so that if we miss something or there's something that's not clear, we can clarify it before it's codified into law. So this is Allison will send out an email and post on the website when the training is ready. And then we are hoping to set the public hearing date. If I can do that tonight, we'd like to set the hearing date for that July 22nd town board meeting. If I have the date correct for that.
Is that for
The second July meeting.
Second July meeting. That would be good.
Tim, is it okay to set the meeting even though we don't have the draft local law prepared? I don't know where Jamie is on that. She and I haven't talked lately about that.
The local law has to be on the desk 7 days before the public hearing. So the problem is if you put the notice out, people will want to see that document. We just don't know when it's going to be ready.
Yeah, so the document and the training. So what we'll do is the document and the training will be on the town website. but we can wait until the 8th meeting to actually set the public hearing. Just that's a very busy meeting. So we'll just all we'll do is just set the date at the 8th for the 22nd.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
But the training and the wording of all the laws will be up on the website well before July 8th.
Okay.
Does that work, Tim?
Yeah.
Does anybody else have questions? And then if you want to save your questions for the public hearing on the 22nd, because the July meeting is too long.
Good way to preface that. That was good. Okay. Very good. All right. So we won't set any public hearing now because we want to get the notifications put together, or the information put together first. Okay. All right. Excellent. Very good, Sarah. And no one else had any other questions or comments on that? Okay. If not, we will move on to correspondence and new business. That would be Rob, you're up. What do you got? Anything good going on? I know you're doing a lot of paving. I've been seeing a lot of that going on.
Actually, we've been right in the deep heart of paving, Ed. So, the guys been doing a great job. I know it's been extremely hot the last couple of days, but they certainly, they're out there doing it, that's for sure. And I think actually, Elaine, we're right up in your neighborhood here this week. So, but we're going to be moving, we're going to be doing some work up in the Mallard's Landing, the back entrance to Mallard's Landing, and Whistling Swan here probably early next week. We'll start doing some milling up there and getting ready to go. But other than that, Ed, I don't really have anything else to report this evening. We did the hydrants and the water lines, so I don't really have anything else tonight.
I don't want anyone.
The Fan Light Circle are very pleased too, Rob. They wanted me to share with you.
And I was going to say, I don't want anybody complaining about these temperatures with the winters that we go through. Right?
No.
That's for sure. And surprisingly, the guys don't say too much about the warm temperatures. That's for sure.
That's good. All right, very good. Randy, do you have anything for us tonight?
I don't have anything for you tonight, Ed.
Come on, man. You have nothing?
This is busy time for it.
I have a lot of stuff, but you don't have time.
Doug,
business as usual. It's picking up, extremely picking up and busy, which we expected when they opened the doors on it. So Mike's been back to work and has a load every time he comes back to work, but doing good. The new office layout's working out fantastic.
Good. That's important. Very good. All right. Tim, Attorney Proteski, what do you have for us tonight?
Mr. Supervisor, I have nothing other than we are going to need to go into executive session to discuss a matter that's covered under attorney-client privilege.
Very good. Thank you. Allison?
I have nothing except to say that there is a blood drive this Saturday at the Fayetteville Methodist Church on June 27th. So everybody should go. There's 12 people watching on Facebook.
What time is that?
It begins at 9 a.m.
Okay.
Is that sponsored by the Red Cross, Allison?
It is. It is.
Until the blood's all drawn, right? Then the gun. Okay, 9 a.m. Is that on our website? Did we get it up there on the website?
It's not, but I can add that.
Yeah, maybe we can do that and have Kate put it on Facebook too.
Okay.
Talk about that. Okay. All right. That's it, Allison? Okay. Chief, you're up. You have a few things for us tonight?
First, I just want to say thank you to all the folks that have been sending a tremendous amount of emails, letters, cards, gift cards, food. It's amazing how many people are walking in our lobby with trays of cookies and cupcakes and all kinds of goodies in support of your police department. And just want to publicly thank all those folks for those things. Secondly, our in-service training program has resumed post-COVID. We did firearms and finished up firearms yesterday, this month, and we're going to be continuing through the summer. Usually we take the summer off, but we have to continue getting these training programs completed. The next thing is our annual report for 2019 is now complete. I did the final approval last week, and I have printed versions for everybody, and also I will ensure that it's up on our website hopefully tomorrow for your review. And then lastly, related to personnel, unfortunately, right now we're down 4 people. And recently I received 2 letters of resignation and 1 letter of retirement. So that potentially could put us down 7 people in a real short period here. That's all I have.
One thing I was hoping you might want to touch on is, and Tim, is the process for Mr. Boyd's request, the FOIL request that he asked about. Can you and Tim just cover on, the process that's followed, so we can, he knows how, when, and the time frame of getting answers to him?
Well, we have a general order policy on FOIL, and it mirrors the New York State law. And every request we get, we follow the law accordingly. And particular to Mr. Boyd, he's been notified of the 5-day letter, and we'll respond to him accordingly.
Okay, very good. Tim, anything you want to add to that, or is that pretty much covered?
No, no, that's accurate. We're following the FOIL regulations.
Okay, good. All right, very good. Anne, what do you have for us tonight?
Quick update on our reopening plan. We continue to meet with our small COVID-19 transition team here at Town Hall. We are waiting for some of the supplies that we ordered to come in. So until we have those, we really can't firm up the date. I mean, we are looking at, early July, but we want to make sure we have all of the necessary supplies and notifications to put up to, so we can help people as they navigate through Town Hall when they first come back. So next week, we should have some good news and provide everyone with the final date of reopening. That's it.
Okay, very good. Speaking of Town Hall, real quick, we had an election yesterday, primaries, and we had our polling place here at Town Hall. The Board of Elections handled everything. I was here. I forgot they were even doing this yesterday because they were all entering and exiting over at the board room entrance. And from what I understand, they provided all of the masks if needed and the hand sanitizers. And I guess, it went off without a hitch because I haven't heard anything else other than all the results that came in. So it worked well, and I'm sure now that it's all been sanitized back. I don't know if they did that or not, Allison, or did we end up doing after they left sanitized? Is that how we handled that? Yes. Okay. Good. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let's move on to the town board. Karen, would you like to kick us off here tonight?
Sure. I just had a couple things I wanted to mention. Last week, of course, Captain Schaefer conducted the CRC meeting by Zoom. It was very well attended and great to hear from everyone. And as I mentioned earlier in the police committee meeting, the amount of work all these organizations have done, particularly the Onondaga County Emergency Management, the hours they have put in since the very beginning of this pandemic. And now, of course, the schools are working on getting reopened and the protocol that they will be following. There's still a lot of work to be done, and certainly appreciate everyone's hard work, their longevity with staying with it all. And we look forward to it all coming together soon. And we did have the police committee meeting tonight, and I thank the chief very much for his extensive report and everything that's going on with the legislation and the governor's reform process. And also, I mentioned, Mr. Supervisor, about the intermunicipal agreement that we will be working on with the village mayors and taking another look at that. It hasn't been looked at really since the beginning of the,
Merger.
well, right,
Yeah, 1985. As I said.
1985, yes. So in the Recreation Department, I'm so happy with what they have done. A lot of residents and their families, I think, are quite pleased.
Mhm. Good, good. Very good. And anything else, Karen? That would be it for now then?
No, I think that's it, Ed.
All right, excellent.
Or Mr. Supervisor, sorry.
Even late for dinner, they say, right? So,
Yeah.
Sarah, what do you have for us tonight?
Hello, I wanted to say that we have been trying to do some work on improving the accuracy of the information on ongov.net. And that we found that there's been some holes in that. And I want to thank Randy for his prompt response to filling some blanks on the zoning. So we are going to continue to work through that process of making sure that the information that gets uploaded to OnGov is reflective of, perhaps changes that have happened in over the course of either the, one of the things that came up in the assessment review process that just concluded with people saying, that there was something inaccurate in their public record. So we're going to try to take that up and get OnGov's process to provide greater accuracy before we have the role next year.
Okay, very good. That's good. Yeah, you're doing a lot of work in that area. It's much appreciated. Try to get this thing figured out. All right, and John, do you have something for us this evening?
Just a reminder to everybody that hasn't seen it already, we do have the public information meeting tomorrow with 3GI about the Inland Port Project. We have sent a very long list of questions to them. We hope to get as many of them answered as possible. And I strongly encourage anyone who's interested in that project to tune in. We'll, try to make it as available after the fact as well. But we're hoping it's going to be a pretty good meeting for everybody. So that's all I've got.
Yes, it should be a good one. Yeah, a lot of information there. Okay, very good, John. Thank you. And Elaine, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I did also attend the police meeting earlier this evening, and I've been looking into the executive order that Cuomo issued about police reform. So I did kind of get the police committee's input on it, and they did suggest potentially creating a committee to kind of look at that particular order and to get a lot of the point of that executive order is to get community input. So that's what we'll be looking to do. And of course, I will be working with Chief Crowell input on this as well. So I just checked with the police committee this evening, and I will be looking into how to create a committee. And I will probably be bringing that around next meeting.
Well, that's a good lead-in for something I want to talk about. So
okay.
I jump in on Caitlin and Heather right now, but I don't know. I think I forwarded. I know that Sarah I did, and the email that I received from the DA's office, Fitzpatrick's office, and the supervisors are that we've been asked to attend. Well, the president of the Supervisors Sandow County Association was asked to represent the town, and they asked for mayors and they asked for chiefs and so on. And at our last meeting, of course, I told Damian Ulatowski, who's Clay supervisor, not that I want to get on any more committees, but because we have a town police and he doesn't. And I mentioned Marianne Coogan out of Camillus, who also has a police department, and of course DeWitt and so on. And Damian reached out to the DA Fitzpatrick and asked if Marianne and I, along with Damian, could meet in the initial group meeting that he puts together. And he was fine with that. Eventually, I think Damien will back away from it and let Marianne and I represent all the towns as far as this process. And I think what we're looking at doing is, let's see what the DA's direction is. As you can see, he has have a public and open process with engaged stakeholders, procedure for public comment. After public comment, develop a plan of submission of that plan to local legislative and body for approval, certification of the plan by local government. So I think this is a good start for us, where we can gather that information with him. And not that I want them to do all the work, but that would probably help us with our process when it comes down to what we're going to do individually. Obviously, he wants each municipality to deal with it the way we all do in our own way, but I think he's giving us some guidelines here to help us along the way. And of course, the chief, as the chairman of the chiefs police, will also be attending. So we'll have excellent representation, and I think some excellent guidance to follow, which we can bring to everybody on the board and everybody in the community. So I thought I'd mention that. One more committee to get on. So very good. Thank you for that lead in, Elaine. All right. Caitlin, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We've been moving forward with the solar project with the regional planning board. We got them up on the landfill last week, and I'm looking forward to hearing how that went and seeing how that progresses. There is a sense of urgency to get that project moving forward and done by the end of the year. So if we get enough of it done, it'll help the town and the residents to save more taxpayer dollars as a result of the federal investment tax credit that's due to expire at the end of the year. So we are on a little bit of a time crunch. So I'm hoping that we can get this moving as quickly as possible. And I met with Randy this morning, and he and I went over everything going on with the planning department, and it sounds like everything is going really well. So I was glad to get that update. And we're looking into what to do, what options might be available to us with dilapidated properties, both ones that are tax delinquent and ones that are not tax delinquent. So we have different options for both. So we're looking into that, fired off a bunch of emails while I was sitting there with Randy. So hopefully we get some progress on our efforts there. And I wanted to just take a moment to honor all of the students that are graduating from the high schools in our town. The graduation and the end of their senior years are certainly not what they expected, or I'm sure what they hoped that they would be. But Fayetteville, Manlius, ESM, MPH, and CBA, and any other students that are graduating from their high schools that live in the town of Manlius and throughout the region.
Innovation Tech, BOCES.
Innovation Tech at BOCES, Heather, thank you. Any others that people know of that we want to make sure we mention? Okay, I just wanted to congratulate them and wish them the best of luck in their futures, whatever that holds for them. And I also wanted to thank all the teachers at all the schools in the area for seeing us through. As a mother of 2 young children, and I know a lot of my colleagues at the town and certainly throughout the community would not have gotten through the last few months without the valiance of our teachers stepping up and overnight figuring out how to remote teach thousands of kids. So I wanted to just thank them for their effort. And I believe that's all I have.
Well, that was a lot, but it was very informative. And I'm as you know, Caitlin, I'm still reaching out to a couple more municipalities that are on the list there for the intermunicipal, finding some very interesting things that have happened. I've shared them with you, and so we're moving right along, but we're really gathering some important information that I think is going to help us as we go forward with this project. So
yeah, it's a really big deal. It's not a small project to put this many megawatts of solar on your old landfill. Like 5 years ago, this was as innovative as renewable energy could get in this state, and it's still pretty up there. It's not easy to do, and if we leading on our other communities, the other towns and villages that have entered into that same intermunicipal agreement with the CNYR PDB, getting that feedback is definitely going to be helpful. I'm optimistic that we'll get the project done one way or another.
Yeah, I'm finding there's a lot of different levels of knowledge from each of the municipalities as far as understanding and not understanding what they're doing. Yeah,
Yeah, we are very lucky to have me on the town board, as I am an expert. I can see John laughing even though I can't hear him. I see a smirk from Heather and Elaine. Now I know you're all smiling.
I had to unmute myself so I could laugh openly.
I appreciate it. But no, it's, my expertise is actually not that extensive when it like I did mostly residential solar education, so even it's very complicated. So I'm looking forward to learning with everyone else and hopefully lending as much expertise as I have. Randy, I also wanted to mention, he and I did speak this morning also about the stretch code. We are hoping to schedule a meeting in August per the discussion we had at one of our earlier board meetings several weeks ago. That kind of got lost in the shuffle of everything else the last month or so, but we are still moving forward to schedule an informational session to get the builders and other interested parties in a room to learn about the stretch code so we can get feedback to see if it's really the best approach for the town, and to see what feedback we can give the state to see if we wanted to make changes of any kind. So back on track with regularly scheduled programming.
It's hard to believe they were at our boardroom when they presented this. That's the last we were going to go in with the informational meetings, and then everything happened. So
yeah, it was supposed to be originally on Earth Day. We had them booked to come.
That's right.
And then everything got canceled. So we did the remote session, but I don't know about you guys, but a lot of that information, like I'm not a codes person. I'm certainly not an engineer. So a lot of that information went over my head. So I want to make sure that we all can learn and make sure it's the direction we want to head in. And we want feedback from the development community to see if it's really feasible for us to move forward with.
Yep, sounds good. All right, Heather, last but not least.
Always standing between everybody and their dessert or their sleep or their nightcap. So, and executive session, right? So I just wanted to speak briefly to thank the assessment department for their hard work, and also the Board of Assessment Review. They were, two brand new people and one person who had only done it for one cycle. So they finished their work and were diligently, building the plane while they were flying it. So thank you very much to them. And I'd also, on the note about comprehensive planning, we maybe has seemed like we've been a little quiet. We had an approach where we originally designed a plan where we'd work with the consolidated funding application to sort of put together the people that we knew would be helping us to plan, and using funding that would come from the consolidated funding agreement to create an architecture for activities, and also a structure for listening sessions and work sessions. And without the state's funding, we just have to reimagine what we're doing here. And I think we can look back at the fact that we had the planning process committee and all of its wonderful work that Allison and Sarah and others have done to get us to a place where we have pockets of work and knowledge that we need to put together. What I'm hoping we can do is, actually have at our next meeting the comprehensive plan resolution that outlines, we're putting together an executive committee. Here's our rough estimate of the outline and what we're hoping basically to accomplish with comprehensive planning. And then begin to put together over the summer listening sessions that help us understand what we don't know yet. and who are the people we could really unearth as being engaged and really committed to this process for different stages, expertise that we could tap in addition to the expertise we know we have. For example, Rob knows most of the neighborhood association contacts, and we can look at that list and sort of reach out to folks for communities that we don't have on that list, so that we have a truly comprehensive way to reach out to have grassroots on the ground contacts to help us amplify our message without a lot of money. If we don't have a lot of money for multiple mailings, we're going to have to build something that's grassroots in order to reach people in an authentic manner. So for the listening tour, I will propose in a memo some topics, but certainly having an incredible historian in our midst, and really engaged experts on sustainability, and people who are interested in sharing and learning. I think we could have a great summer of having some conversations about topics that are quite interesting for everyone. So that's just a preview. I like to give previews in my little sections before I bring up things in the next meeting. So that's comprehensive planning, and thanks to everyone, because we're all a part of it. And thank you to Sarah, because while I'm the ideas person and I like to bring people to the table, Sarah actually makes sure we have an agenda and that we stick to one and move conversation forward, not everywhere.
Well, thank you, Heather. And to that end, I want to just remind everybody that since our last meeting, we had the Facing Racism event, and to thank everybody who came to that and all the community members. From the newspaper, it said there were 300 people there. I really want to thank the speakers at that, and just say, I think this is not over, and we're going to be continuing to learn how we can make Manlius a better place.
Very good.
It feels like it was so much.
And it feels like it's.
And I did not realize we had not had a meeting since then.
It's amazing. And we have 2 weeks till the next one. So then we had a longer break.
We did have quite a few people from the town attend that event, and it was, I think that it's really going to help all of us to move in a positive direction. Heather's resolution this evening, and the voices we heard at Facing Racism, I think it's becoming really obvious to all of us at the town, and to our neighbors and friends and family members that live here, that not everyone has always felt included here. And I think it's incumbent on us as leaders in the community to demonstrate to the best of our ability, and maybe even push ourselves a little bit further than we might have historically felt comfortable, to show that absolutely they are beyond welcome here. And I think that that's the direction we're heading in. So I think that I feel really positive and good about where we're going.
Okay, very good.
The comprehensive planning process too, Heather, in addition to helping us to become more inclusive, with things like the top of the world situation, how might the comprehensive planning process help us with that?
Well, right. Actually, thank you for bringing it up again. I think I mentioned briefly that I think that it was so interesting to hear people talk about having such a connection to the land there, and to feel a sense of pride and excitement around going there and being there. And we should tap that for understanding what kinds of spaces people want to be in and spend time in and celebrate. And so, as I indicated, and as somebody who works in an environment professionally of doing bequests and understanding legacy, if there are people in the community who would ever want to dream with us about parks and ever make land and spaces possible, that's a perfect example of a place that could be a real exciting connection for that. I think it's fantastic to think about, and it's exciting. It's the fun part of comprehensive planning, going through with a fine-tooth comb and making sure the code aligns and all the work is done. That's important too. But we need to do both things.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely a process. There's no doubt about that. So it'll be a lot of work, but we'll get it done, right? All right, very good. I only have one thing, since I dovetailed off from Elaine's earlier, so that's sort of good. Before we go into executive session, I have my monthly supervisor's report, which you all had copies of or sent to you, and the attachment form, balance sheet, cash balance, year-to-date, actual budget. I printed out one that was only 2 pages, but I think you've all seen them, so I need a motion to accept the supervisor's report before we.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Supervisor, to accept the report.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. And I need a motion to go into executive session for, how was that phrased, Tim?
It's a matter of under attorney-client privilege.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Supervisor, to go into executive session to discuss a matter under attorney-client privilege.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, so Allison, do we get off or do you get off?
Yeah.
We all mute and turn off our videos.
Okay.
And then when executive session is over, we'll come back and open the meeting again. And then if we're going to take any action out of executive session, we will do it in a public session, but I don't think we're going to be taking any action afterward.
'cause Karen looks a lot like Ken right now. We just got away from the dining room table, right? So now we're back to business. Yeah, right. All right, who? Waiting on Karen. Ann's video froze, so she's in my office right now.
Did we lose Tim?
He's probably working his way back, I hope.
No, I'm here. Allison, you can put my video on. Thank you.
You know, Karen's been having, she told me she's been having some issues with her Wi-Fi or whatever it is too. Or, what do you call it, John? Yeah. Well, we have a quorum, right? It's rather. Yeah. So we could. I think we're done here because we've discussed what we're going to do. So I think we'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Very good. Thanks, everybody.
One.
All right. See you next time.